What do a speaking coach, a strategy consultant, and a CEO have in common? Sounds like the start of a bad joke, right? But honestly, it's all about finding out what people really do in their jobs. The stories, struggles, the coffee breaks. The real stuff you won't find in a job title.
Welcome to a space where we sit down with people from all kinds of careers, have a laugh, and dive into what makes their work meaningful. Whether you're looking to learn something new or just here for a good story, let us be your guide. I'm Geoff.
And I'm Charlie.
And let's get Casually Pro!
Casually Pro!
Woo! Today, we sit with a hero who decided to fight for democracy. Andrew Gray founded and exited two law firms before founding Suffrago, a tool that helps people get heard instead of being ignored in the noise of social media. His goal is to make Suffrago available everywhere in the world where democracy is under attack. Andrew, you're a hero not just because you fight for people, but also because you took on this mission while having a chronic condition. You decided to do something when most people would have given up. Oh, and you told me that you would kill me if I were to delete your TikTok account. Obviously, I'm still here. I didn't do it, but I leave the mystery of the why for now. Andrew, I'm super happy to be here with you today. Can you please start by telling us who you are, what you do, and how you got to do what you do?
What a lovely introduction. Thank you, gentlemen. It's a real pleasure and a privilege to be with you both. So I'm Andrew Gray, CEO of Suffrago, as you say, which is a political tech tool with massive delusions of grandeur and ambition like you wouldn't believe. I don't know all of your previous guests, but I imagine I'm probably the most ambitious person that either of you ever have met, because we do want to make Suffrago the equivalent of Facebook. In fact, a better example is that of Google. Google's entered the lexicon as to Google something. We would like people to Suffrago something. And to Suffrago something is to find the collective wisdom within any group of people. But by way of background, I am from Manchester in England, although I don't have the accent and I don't sound anything like Oasis, sadly. In fact, I didn't even like Oasis because I wasn't cool enough to like Oasis in the 90s. I'm a bit of a nerd for politics, massive nerd for politics. And my claim to fame, I've got a few, but this is I've been involved in four political parties in the United Kingdom, which has really influenced my journey and my thinking. And I like to bring people together rather than having sort of people fighting like rats in a sack. So I'm motivated by that. I became a lawyer, um, and law school was the most boring thing I've ever done in my entire life, and I don't recommend it to anybody. And if I was a lawyer today, I'd be very scared of artificial intelligence. Naughty artificial intelligence. But I was a lawyer because I wanted to become a politician. I've had a go at being a politician. In fact, I think it's a bit like a humble brag, but I was the first idiot or politician, would-be politician in the world to use AI in an election, and that was 2 and a bit years ago in the UK, a few months after ChatGPT came out. And yeah, I was a lawyer for 20 years, founded and sold a couple of law firms, done a few stuff, have a chronic health condition, a couple of kids, married to a long-suffering wife, and I'm a long-suffering husband. Does that do it?
Absolutely, it does. There's a lot to unpack there. But just to start, tell us about what made you want to start Suffrago, because it does sound incredibly ambitious, but it's also, I think, in a time where there is so much varying information at different levels of maybe correctness or even like, um decisively uh trying to confuse people. Um, what what kind of prompted you to say, okay, I'm going to stop being a lawyer. I have done all of this. I'm going to talk about the truth and help people fight for democracy. I mean, as big as a concept as that is, what made you say this is the time?
One of the many upsides of having a chronic health condition, and I've been in hospital multiple times with infections, and if I don't go to hospital, I will probably die of an infection. What it does is it really sharpens your senses and your sense of how long we may have on planet Earth. So at any given moment, including this one, I work on the basis that I have 1 year left to live. I may have 100 years to live, 150, or one day. I obviously don't know. I think it would be wild to think I'm definitely going to live until I'm 80. That seems, I'm 45. Have I got 35 years left? I don't know. I think it would be silly to live as if you've got one day left because you'd probably try and run away with the ex-girlfriend that got away when you were 16 and then all hell would break loose. And you spend all of your money and all of those things. That would be silly. I think 1 year is that beautiful period of time that you can imagine a few 4 seasons, and it wouldn't be another surprise if you got to another year. So if I've got 1 year left, the simple question is, what is the maximum good that I can do on planet Earth? And the way I think of it is, and it sounds pretentious, and I laugh at me if you wish, is there's only ever been one Andrew Gray with my background, ditto every other human that's ever lived. And what I found in my life is if I lean into the stuff that is very unique to me, well, I'm going to be the best at it because there's only one of me. So I'm just trying to understand my own strengths and weaknesses and use the chronic health condition where I have to lie down a lot, can't do the meetings. I do Zoom meet things like this, but I become better at Zoom. I become better at TikTok. I become better at delegating it because I'm lying down. So lean into what makes me special, and I would recommend anyone do that. And I say it to my kids, like listen to that deep intuition that you have. And yeah, although I'm supposed to be a logical lawyer, I think the most logical thing you can do is listen to your sort of guts, your intuition, your instincts.
Wow. Wow. Such a that's very powerful. What you just said, do as if you had only 1 year. I think it's something that is sometimes used in personal development, but here it's not a visualization for you. It's real. So you really live it. And it doesn't sound pretentious at all when you say that you use what makes you unique to develop something, and it's something beautiful because you're looking to do the best thing for society given where you are, what you have, what you can do. And this is more like a realization, self-realization. I think it's a very it's an extremely rare and beautiful path choose that you chose, Andrew, and especially the fact that you are doing it while having difficulties, which must make it even harder. I heard you speaking the other day, and you said that one of the reasons you do it is because you couldn't stand facing your children later on and telling them, yeah, I knew about this problem, and I know that I had the skills to tackle it, and I didn't do anything.
Exactly right. Yeah, I want them to be proud of what I do. I would want um, my efforts on planet Earth to reverberate positively throughout the ages. That sounds utterly ridiculous, but I think it is true. Now, in some senses, just having children, I suppose, is they are the echo. But what messages do they have, and what messages do they carry with them? And you mentioned TikTok nicely introduction. I cannot believe that the technology exists for me to be able to pick up my phone, literally lie in bed where I record some of my TikToks and say something and hundreds of thousands of people can see it. It's so exciting. No Roman emperor had that option in front of them. And if they had it, they had to have a legions of people doing it for them. For me, it's just me, my iPhone, my voice, and my bed. That's all we need to sort of speak our truth. So yeah, that's what I lean into, and I think anyone would be successful if they just leaned into what is special about them. And if I may, I think one of the difficulties we have with schooling is it makes us compete with each other. And if a school teacher decides that we are a B level at maths, we carry it with us. I mean, I suspect both of you two will know exactly what you got in maths at school. That's ridiculous. It's almost like it's freezing us in time. It imprisons us. And I think I've done a reasonable job of following this sort of Nietzsche line of trying to reimagine all of the values and strip away all of society's structures and go, and then what? What would I do? Because I really don't like labels. Like I was a lawyer. Am I still a lawyer? What's the definition of a lawyer? I look after my health. Am I a doctor? There's all of these things. I think humans are such multifaceted beings that language doesn't have enough characters, words, languages to explain how unique all of us are with our separate skill sets. I try to think of it like that, which is a bit silly, but it works for me.
You know, something that you said really resonates with me because I love people. I think people are phenomenal. And the reason that I think people are so great is because in the history of all beings, at least that I understand, right? And I love paleontology, believe it or not, the study of dead living things. But in the history of all things, human beings are the only creature today, or in the entirety of history, that can fundamentally change who they are and what they want day to day. Tomorrow, you can be an entirely different person if you really sit down and you think, I am sick of X thing. I want to be Y person. How do I do that? I wake up tomorrow and I start working out, and then that lasts decades, maybe. You can go back to school. You can, fundamentally change the way that you think and do things, right? And I think you are an excellent example of that. You were talking about, am I still a lawyer? What is a lawyer? Right? But the idea that I think so many people have difficulty with is understanding their own capability for change, right? In your experience, I mean, do you feel like you were forced into change? Or was there a moment in time where you kind of sat and you thought, I could continue doing the same thing tomorrow, but I don't want to? Was it, or maybe it was a mix of both? Tell us about what made that fundamental change from, you know, lawyer to I am building a massive platform to help get people more informed.
It's utterly pathetic and tragic as a middle-aged man to talk about your parents, but they, man, they're so influential. I almost wish that they were not. But knowing how influential they are to me makes me even more aware of how I've got to be with my kids.
Mm.
And my parents were entrepreneurs, and when they saw a problem, they tried to fix the problem, play whack-a-mole with problem. And that was always the same for me. So when I was a lawyer, lawyers are very good at understanding a niche area, and we put our clients on these processes, and they almost can't deviate from the process. In fact, I think many a lawyer does a disservice to their client because they work what process is best for my client rather than what is best for my client, I guess. So for me, I've always questioned things. I have a bit of a background in philosophy, so I'm always questioning, why do we do that process? So every law firm I've worked in, I've kind of been disappointed with them all. Not that saying I was any brighter than them, but it was more of a questioning mindset. So it is wired into me from either genetically or just from seeing parents be entrepreneurs to see a problem, try and fix the problem. So when I didn't like working for another massive law firm, I set up my own law firm called Truth Legal. And actually, that word truth is very important to me and influences still what we do at Suffrago because in this post-truth or misinformation world, where is truth? So truth is key for me. But the reason I set up is I didn't like what everyone else was doing and I knew I could do it better. And I did a pretty good job of that. The law firm grew quite quick. And the only reason I sold it and stopped lawyering was generally for health reasons. It is an incredibly stressful job. I was a litigator, so I had to do, imagine running a law firm through COVID with two kids quite young. Every case is stressful. All of your lawyers are hard-nosed litigators. Every client is in jeopardy, and you're dealing with the other side, the opponents who are hard-nosed litigators. Their clients are tough. Like it's you forget that you're just dealing with horribleness all of the time. And that those micro stresses of all of those cases, coupled with every WhatsApp message you get from the client, every email you get, you're constantly at risk. Like you feel like you're under attack. And if you've been immersed in this like a boiled frog, you don't even notice it, but it's incredibly damaging for our health. Now, I know humans have always been scared of like the saber-toothed tiger getting at us, but for us, we don't have the saber-toothed tiger. We've got like the pinprick, just like thousands of them per day at us. And some people's physiology can't withstand it, and mine didn't. And my health was declining, and it's never really got back to where it was. There's no way I could litigate. Being a CEO is harder. It's harder for Suffrago in some senses, but lawyering is, man, it's stressful. So I was forced into it, but I kind of listened to my body, right? You got to listen to your body. Your body says, I cannot do this. I have to do something else. So I took a break and then followed my nose.
Wow. I hope there are not too many lawyers that are listening to this, or maybe maybe it's a good idea that they do because it's another point of view. It's always interesting. Andrew, we talked in the intro about this TikTok. This TikTok, you use TikTok to get informed, and TikTok has such a bad press, which might seem weird that someone like you uses TikTok daily and so much as you. Can you tell us about how you use it and what benefits you get out of it? Or maybe give a few tips for the people who want to use it in a smart way like you.
Very simply, TikTok is the best piece of technology that's ever been existed, and I can't imagine anything better than it because its algorithm is so incredibly sharp. If you search reasonably well to start off with when you first start using it, and then you're conscious of how much time you spend on looking at whatever it is that you're interested in, for the rest of all time, TikTok will send you the most interesting things to you. It's almost as if you've had psychologists studied everything that I've ever done in my life and created an algorithm just for me. It is so bespoke, and that's why I would wrestle you for my TikTok algorithm. I'd be devastated if it was changed anyway. I feel like I've learned so much about so many things I didn't previously know about. Corners of the world I didn't know. Yes, I do get some China propaganda, and it has reduced a little bit since Trump did his Trumpian deal with the Salesforce people. But yeah, but I was quite enjoyed learning about China. There are cities in China I didn't even know existed, and they've got more skyscrapers than anywhere in New York. Thank you very much for sharing that with me. And why I think it's just so much superior to YouTube is I know YouTube got YouTube Shorts. They're definitely not as intuitive in any way, and I do use YouTube Shorts a bit. But with TikTok, you're getting the very best of whatever it would be. So the very best of this podcast, the very best of whatever it would be, is sent to me. I'm not wasting time. And if you remember, I say I've got 1 year left to live. Why would I spend 30 minutes watching a YouTube video just to get to like 4 nuggets when TikTok will give me that in 1 minute? To me, it's kind of obvious. And for me, I'm wired to love ideas and having my mind bent. And TikTok does that with like, for me, a philosophy idea, business idea, all of this, bam, bam, bam. And I love filtering through all that. Now, I don't get any cat videos. A lot of my friends refuse to use TikTok. So I'm sending them a TikTok of me or something. This is really interesting. And they reply, I don't do TikTok. And it just makes me just absolutely mad Because they think it's the bad press, the Chinese government spying on them, there's the phone switched on all the time, certain. But they, a lot of the lawyers, friends of mine, they're used to charging by the hour. So why waste time doing something that doesn't get the very best of something? Who wants the second best anything? Everybody wants the best something. And I think TikTok knocks it out of the park for me. And when I've been using it myself, at first I started it in a really dull way. I wouldn't look at my first ones unless you want to know how not to do it. But essentially, I just lean into what makes me me. And one I posted this morning, I posted one about being in a supermarket about 18 years ago at a particular point in time in the town that I'm living in, now living in. But I previously lived in Manchester, which was a much tougher, rougher neighborhood, and I moved to a very gentle town. And I was in this gentle supermarket 18 years ago at a particular time, and the lady comes up to us who worked there at nearly 8 o'clock and said, excuse me, I wanted to let you know we're shutting the store now." And we said, "Oh, we didn't, sorry, we didn't hear the tannoy." And she said, "In this lovely town, in this lovely supermarket, we tell our customers individually." And it was so funny. I've always remembered that. And at that moment, my wife and I said, "We're going to move to this town." So I just posted that story. I went to the supermarket yesterday, posted the story. And last time I looked, it's only like 24,000 people, but it's geo-targeted to a town of only 80,000 people. It's likely a quarter of the people have seen my TikTok in my town in the last few hours. I mean, that's extraordinary. And when I'm dealing with this democracy, Suffrago, where we're trying to bring people together in a nice way and sample what people say, what better way of doing it if geo-targeting a TikTok here? Now, I've got a few accounts, but the geo-targeting one works very, very well indeed.
Okay, so now that you mentioned that, I have to tell you uh, an incredible kind of kismet that happened because of TikTok. So you're a political nerd. I very much share that in common with you. So I live in New York City, and right now we're going through a mayoral election for those
I
who do
know.
not know. A very significant one. And there's a gentleman by the name of Zoran Mamdani, who is just taking over the polls. But what a lot of people don't know about him is that, well, him and I maybe, we live in the same neighborhood. I had genuinely no idea about this until I was scrolling through TikTok and he was uh, uh, putting on a sort of event, right? But in the background, I saw a place that is literally a block away from me. And so when you look at the effectiveness of something like TikTok and its ability to rally, it's not in the traditional uh, um, internet way that it used to be, right? I think the old school way was like, okay, you put something out on, for example, YouTube, and then it reaches people based on either tags or common phrases or things that might have been shared. So, someone who is looking up, I don't know, green shirt, and you are reviewing a green shirt, that person could be in Lithuania. That person could be a block away from you. That person could be on the International Space Station. It doesn't matter because it's going based on the terminology. But the powerful use of, uh, basing it on geography or using more qualifiers for the filtering is that you reach a much more niche audience that becomes more able to mobilize because of the content that you put out. And so I very much share that same sentiment with you about the power of TikTok. But I think the thing that most people have difficulty with isn't so much the idea of putting out content into the world. I think most people can probably think to themselves like, "Oh yeah, I would love to just talk and rant about XYZ thing and put it out to people that would share that." But there are multiple outlets for that. Think like Reddit, for example. But I think the difficulty with visual content like TikTok, especially for people who are not themselves content creators, are twofold. One, is that there is an amount of preciousness that you have in the image portion of the video itself, right? I can't tell you the amount of times I have recorded something for my socials, looked it back, and then there was just like a little lock of hair that was out of place, and I'm like, damn, it was perfect otherwise. So I had to scrap it and do it again. And that turns into like a really monotonous task. And the second of which is that the consistency of putting out videos because of that becomes much more difficult, right? Because it becomes a chore, it becomes a task, it becomes something that is less accessible than, for example, doing a written post on something like LinkedIn. But you as a person who is not just creating content for content's sake, or because it's interesting, or you find it a cool hobby, for example, this is a really, really important topic that you're covering. How do you make the transition between being an expert or being someone who understands a very niche topic and putting that niche topic into a platform like TikTok at a regular interval, right? I think most people can imagine doing one really good video, but because this is a part of your process, a part of your business, this is something that you have to create day in and day out. How do you go from being that expert to the expert on TikTok, quote unquote?
That's a zinger of a question, and I'm not sure if I can do it justice. The way I look at it is I think humans just learn through stories. And TikTok seems to be a very good way of getting across a story. Stories have inbuilt in them like thousands of years worth of human development have gone into each story, I think. The Bible, is it the word of God? It's not for me to say, but essentially it's a kind of a collection of stories, good news, I guess. The Iliad, a collection of stories that was passed down in an oral tradition. I actually think TikTok and other socials as well and this podcast is just a collection of stories. We learn best that way from others' experience. In a sense, I think every human generation is better than the generation before it because we just get better, kind of back to your earlier point. As to the regularity of posting, I think that most humans are creative in lots of different ways. I'm creative with my ideas, and I like writing a blog, and now I like creating TikTok. My best performing TikToks have all been blogs that had, say, a few hundred readers. And I've thought about it and thought, oh, that was quite a good blog. I really enjoyed that thought that I came to, which took me many years. And then I wrote a blog about it, but only 300 people saw it. When I then film the gist of that blog in a sort of as I'm walking down the street to make a point about my street or the butchers, whatever the point I'm making, it hammers home the point so well because people can understand the intonation of my voice. They'll look at me as a white 45-year-old middle class Englishman, and they'll probably understand where the stories probably come from. And if I'm talking about location with TikTok, they can see my place. By way of example, another one I did this week, which I'm quite proud of, was a blog I wrote a few years ago, essentially arguing that you have benefits cheats that rip off the government, the taxpayer, by pretending they are disabled or out of work when they are working, and they get an extra, say, $100 a month. But I walk past a shop saying, but they spend the $100 a month that they've cheated in this shop and that shop and point them out. And then I make the point that me, as a good middle class, law-abiding boy, former lawyer, goes abroad to Spain and spends 2,000 euros in Spain, and that money is lost from the economy. And I think that's quite an interesting thought. And it's only had about 110,000 views in the UK mostly. And it starts this conversation. Now, if you can get comments, people arguing against each other in there, and occasionally use the creator jump in to argue in a nice way, then when on TikTok, what is interesting is a lot of people, when they see a video, they go straight to the comments. And if there are 100 comments, they start reading the comments. And TikTok knows obviously how long one spends on the TikTok. So more comments equals more time on screen. and the videos can just explode. And I always like to have a nice, like, provocative title. So the one I just explained, my heading line was, and I was dressed in a suit and I looked very posh, and my headline was, "I am bad for the economy." And most of my videos are me criticizing my own morality. And it's quite funny because when you do that, it's quite difficult for anybody to really have a go at you because, in a sense, the whole thrust of the video is me being critical of me. So it's quite hard for any of the commenters to go, "Oh, you're a scumbag," because that's kind of the whole point of the video. But in me, they see themselves, and they're trying to, like, and you see this false equivalence, this mental gymnastics going on in people's heads, which then feeds very nicely into the algorithm. So yes, it's hard to keep putting them out, but I think everybody's creative. Some people creative, they want to do crocheting or painting or drawing or whatever it be. Poetry, that's not mine. Mine's ideas, writing it down, and now putting out some ridiculous TikToks that people watch, which is weird. And by the way, I'm completely obsessed by the numbers as well. Like, I'll be refresh, refresh. Oh, someone liked it. And a tip, by the way, for anybody watching this, listening to it, is once you've posted it, uh, TikTok gives you the first 200 views usually, and you basically want a coterie of people that you know liking it, shaving it, sharing it quite quickly. If they do that, TikTok then boom, boom, takes it to the next to 500, and then 500 to 1,000, and you need to be engaged. So when I'm posting my TikToks, I'm forever using my own tailored chat GPT to look at the stats and giving it feedback all the time. And one of my favorite things to do, and this is totally pathetic at my age, is to ask ChatGPT, okay, after 500 views, where do you think this will go? And it'll say, oh, I think this will only get 1,500 overnight. And I go, right then, I'm going to beat ChatGPT. And I always get ChatGPT to eat humble pie as it's to low predictions of what my TikToks will do. Haha, ChatGPT, I beat you again. And it'll say, oh, you got me.
Wow, Andrew, you're so deep in this game, but you do it because it's a mission. So every time someone see your video, someone see your message, it creates awareness, and this is something that benefits society. So it's a good thing. I guess in this situation, I I see it as a very positive thing that you are geeking so much about it. I would like to ask you, how much preparation do you put in those videos? Because since you obviously want more people to see them, and there are many ways to convey a message, some of them doesn't works a little bit, and others work very well. How much strategy and preparation do you put in your video? Do you study human psychology? Do you try to find what works, what doesn't?
The way I see TikTok is the way that the light bulb was created by Edison. I think he needed like 3,000 experiments, was it, until he created the light bulb? I think it was that. And I think when they found penicillin, I think it was just by chance there was it some bacteria that grew in a petri dish as well. And I also think Viagra was created when they were trying to do something to cure heart disease and ended up realizing that Viagra had other properties, right? So if you follow that logic through, one needs to keep experimenting. Now, what I haven't explained to you as well is what is so unusual about Suffrago, what we're doing in the UK, and we're trying to take it to every country, including India, is the way to get the message out is through people telling stories. So our reporters, we've got a network of about 40 reporters in the UK. We're only a year old. And these reporters just have iPhones. That's what they're doing. They're using data, their own personality, location, right? So me as the CEO of this crazy organization where I haven't met any of my reporters because it's all visual, I need to lead by showing who I am. So a lot of my TikToks are addressed at my team because I've never met them. It's in a way to address your team. And people don't always remember, I think, what you say. I think they'll remember how you made them feel. So if I make them feel safe by being able, for me, show weakness, like I genuinely cried on a TikTok the other day because I talked about something very sad when I was at hospital last year. And uh, yeah, yeah, genuinely, yeah, even thinking about it makes me upset and I lose my words. But I didn't mean to get a bit sniffly and upset on a TikTok, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to post that. 55,000 people later in my town have seen me sort of like kind of cry at the end outside the hospital. I did a post about being in a hospital. And that provides, I don't do it, it sounds a bit Machiavellian, but I want to show vulnerability. Like you can make mistakes. Nothing that anybody does for the team at Suffrago is going to kill Suffrago. And the only person who can prove that is me to them. So it's a way of me bonding with my team, giving them permission for them to experiment, and we all learn off each other. In terms of prep, uh, I do find choosing my clothes in the morning more challenging than ever before because I frequently I don't look very well anyway because I've got a chronic health condition. But you're thinking, oh right, oh blue suits me today, or it doesn't. What's the sun like? Okay, it's raining. What clothes are you going to wear? And key as well is lighting. I think Charles said about his hair being out of place, but the lighting seems so key on TikTok. And most of the ones I've got rid of are where I hadn't looked right in the light. It was the light. Natural light is great. So it's different times of day and different windows in different parts of the house. You have to find the right lighting. I never found artificial lighting good enough for what natural light could do as well. But like as a former lawyer, occasionally I have to wear a pinstripe suit to to tell a message, and some of those are more serious and it's required. But sometimes you can mix it up with people see you in a suit, they think authority straight away. They've got like 2 seconds authority figure there, and then you say something daft, and there's that sort of it plays in people's minds. I'm not sure I've studied any psychology enough, but I do watch them back, and I think if I watch them back and I'm giggling, or I found myself, I'm interested by what I've said. I think I am my audience. I'm always kind of speaking to me. If that makes any sense.
You know, I constantly now, especially more than ever, am bombarded with the existential dread of living in an AI world. Um, the idea is at one point before we could toss a half-baked uh mistake-ridden statement into a chat box and then receive a beautifully uh made piece of copy. uh it really mattered what you said, how you said it, and the kind of basis on perfection of the content that you put out in the world. But the more and more I look at that today, it is not about high production value videos. It is not about creating something that is immeasurably beautiful because you just pumped money and resources into it. It's about creating something that someone can really latch onto at an emotional level because it's authentic. It's the thing that really makes you human, that you connect with. And I think more and more we're seeing the creator economy transition into that value. And Suffrago, if I'm wrong, please correct me, but it sounds like that is the basis for your business, is capitalizing not just on information, because information is available through a million different sources, but information that reaches people and gets them to think, gets them to understand, gets them to sympathize and create these moments of genuine um, human connection with something that they might have never seen or known or understood before. I guess with that being said, what do you find is the most difficult part of getting people not just informed but connected? What makes Suffrago so, in your mind, in your opinion, so very critical to the world today?
Charles, you speak so elegantly and eloquently, as you both do, and it's frustrating following you both. It's really annoying. I'd rather you were tripping over your words and sounding incoherent, but there's a lot there of what you said to answer and unpick. If I may, when I was the first idiot politician would be in July 23 to use AI in an election in which I ran 50 AI powered conversations in this area of Yorkshire in England and created a manifesto of all of those people's views together, and the manifesto wasn't left wing or right wing. It wasn't anti-Europe or pro-Europe. It was the collection of wisdom. It was great. On that journey, by the way, I found my co-founder of Suffrago. We were forged in the fire of that time. But what might interest your listeners and viewers is the biggest objection people had to me back then, 2 and a bit years ago, was that I wasn't real, that I was AI. So frequently I'd get a message, "Dear Mr. Gray, what do you think about the housing development in my village?" And I wouldn't reply fast enough because I had lots of other things to do. And then suddenly I got a message back saying, "I now know that you're real because you haven't replied fast enough. It would be an AI bot replying." And that was fascinating. So what we've always thought with Suffrago, and I think this is relevant to anyone's use of AI, is leaning into what makes us human, kind of like closing the loop in a sense. Lean into it, be authentic, have your hair out of place, look like I did one when I had COVID the other day when I did a TikTok with COVID, and people could see got bags under my eyes, and my voice had gone. I mean, it was the most authentic thing I could ever post. But there was something interesting about happening with COVID, is that all my other conditions cleared up because my immune system started working well. And I thought that was interesting. I'm going to post that, and everyone started going da da da. Anyway, but as to why do I think Suffrago is necessary today, is if I can just go back a bit about politics, how did we get to the representative system that we got here without lecturing your viewers? Very simply, back in ancient Athens, men, white men, not slaves, not women, would go and listen to a debate at the Parthenon or Acropolis. I forget what it is. They'd hear a debate and have a pebble, a white pebble or a black pebble. And do they need to put Socrates to death? White pebble, black pebble. Everyone listened to the debate. When cities got bigger, you needed representatives, and that's what's given us the representative system. Once you've got representatives, why would they ever surrender the power that put them there in the first place? And frankly, cities have got bigger, countries have got bigger, the issues are massively complicated. But along comes AI, which allows us to find the wisdom within each person and in groups and finding where they agree. And the point of Suffrago is to do that and to feed the information back up to the representatives. Essentially, to each citizen, to empower each citizen, to empower every member of parliament, senator, prime minister, president, to make better decisions on our behalf, tapping into all of our wisdom. And I think the technology allows us to cure the ills in democracy caused by technology. So we've spoken a lot in this podcast about TikTok and algorithms. Algorithms are essentially machine learning. They they rely on a deep understanding of our need for dopamine and conflict and people saying crazy things to get attractive viewers. And I suppose I tap into that, right? But that means that it's wiring our brains to think that everybody's an idiot, or everybody in our echo chamber is great. And really, if we went back pre-internet and we went to a bar and we had a conversation, like it wouldn't follow us round forever. Like we once said something about Trump, good or bad. It doesn't follow us. Now it follows us. So people are more scared to say things, which is very, very sad. You have the death of Charlie Kirk for his politics, I suppose, whatever it would be, and we just feel polarized. But we're not really any more polarized than before if we didn't have these algorithms putting us into echo chambers and having us fight with one another. Actually, so we are using algorithms to cure the ills caused by algorithms.
That's really sad, but telling in a way, right? And it's really funny that you mentioned that because I think about like the cyclical nature of things that really kind of changed humanity. Um, and I think if you had to quantify how important AI is, right? Is it phenomenally life-changing? In a sense, yes. But I mean, what's the difference between that and the internet, the printing press, the wheel, and how little did we kind of treasure those inventions like a decade after they were created? Um, and then now we're kind of seeing the ills of which the people can rot with tools that are more expansive, um, but also the kind of really cool things that they can do once they're AI enabled. Uh, so Andrew, I guess one last question on my end here. What is Suffrago's kind of plan for bringing information to people? Is it going to be more expansive than just having a couple of reporters per country? Is it going to be crowdsourced? Is it going to be something that enables other people to uh, produce for you, or is it going to be highly selective vis-a-vis, like a traditional news uh, kind of organization? Uh, just because, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking about how powerful the tools you are talking about uh, and you're using are, but they're also globalized, right? I think the big problem with information is that we get information from everywhere, but is the information correct, right? And then if you limit the amount of information, does that limit the amount of understanding that you can get in the long run? How do you juggle that? How do you balance that?
Wow, again, there's a lot there. So I, as a sort of lawyer still, politician, I think what a lot of people have missed about AI is that this is the biggest moment for citizen empowerment ever. Because if you were to ask the average person, where are the laws, where are the rules of the country that govern you, they'd say, oh, probably some of them are on the internet, i.e., nobody knows where all of the rules are that govern them, even though they pay their taxes. Now, we all think that's kind of normal, but it isn't. Like if you're in a company and you don't know what the rules are, that would be weird. But we're in countries where we don't know what the rules are, even though that most of these are democracies. I think once you establish that, in a world of AI, we don't have it quite yet, but when we do, when the AI, our own agents understand us, it'll also understand all of the laws. Now, no lawyer could ever know all of the laws and interpret them in the way that AI can. Therefore, this is an incredible moment because each citizen essentially has their own lawyer acting for them if they choose to, i.e., every citizen could use every law for the first time for free without lawyers. That is mind blowing. The legal systems have all been set up essentially for the rich. The rich have access to all the lawyers, more or less everybody else does not. The balance of power is going to change dramatically and it's going to be chaos. Imagine what happens when AI bots are issuing court proceedings for everything that every human could bring a claim about. The legal system, there'll be 10,000 times more claims going through courts, or a million times than there is now, and the courts aren't ready for them. But it's damn exciting. I can't tell you how exciting I am about that. What I think is also true, though, is it's a moment of great opportunity to lean into what makes us human, to lean into things that the AI could never do. It can't bond with people. You wouldn't marry AI. You Jobs that have been, I hesitate to say it, traditionally female, more caring jobs are going to be the most high-paying ones because they cannot be replicated by anybody else, by technology. Anything that is essentially like a lawyer, accountant, I think that is they're in far more difficulty, I think, with the exception of the deployment of their wisdom and knowledge. But everything else that's more human is going to be more highly valued. And I think that is, God, that's so exciting. I don't know if I've answered your question. There's a Suffrago thing you've asked me there, and I've probably inadvertently dodged it, Charles. But if I've missed it, please ask me.
I'm very happy, Andrew, that you came with this because I was about to ask you for this specific question. Yeah, empowering is also the word that comes to my mind. To tell you, this morning I was talking to my brother, and he had some legal document to understand. So I started to read it, realized that the words were very legal kind of words, and then he just ended the document to ChatGPT and said, "Hey, can you tell me what it says in simple language?" And so that's what he did. It was actually pretty simple once it was translated, which made me think that something that intimidates many people in politics is language, communication. They don't have the education, they don't have the cultural background, knowledge. And so they are not really sure about how to communicate. They don't necessarily understand what people say. And if you hear politicians talk, there are many times, not very clear what they say. But no, people can just copy paste the speech of a politician, copy it in their favorite LLM, ask them what it's all about, and notice that the answer of the LLM is this is just a very, very long and windy way to say nothing at all.
Very good.
So in a sense, this is a tool that gives equality to people.
Yes.
Everyone will be able to understand, communicate. And this never happened before. And as Charles, you said that it's a little bit like the book, the internet. It's always more knowledge. You can access whatever you don't know. But there is a limit to that. If you go on Wikipedia because you want to learn mathematics, you will be very annoyed because articles about mathematics on Wikipedia are made to be understood only by people who already have a higher level. And so they will than the one that is about those theorems or demonstrations, or at least this is what it seems. You always need to find the right course or the right article, the right book, given where you are at. And if you don't get the order right, it can be very hard. But AI allows you to bypass this entirely. And you can, even if you don't know anything, you can understand something because the AI will just make the pass. And if you don't understand, can you just explain this? Can you explain this? Can you explain this? Until you get it. And yeah, this never happened. And it's really about empowerment. I think this is the right term. Andrew, I would like to ask you about the vision of Suffrago. So you told us in the beginning that you only think 1 year in advance, but let's admit that we see a little bit longer. I would like to hear about the long-term vision of Suffrago. Whatever long-term means to you, it could be 10 years, could be 20, could be 30 years. What's your vision? And I also would like to know what you need right now to make it happen.
Money. Money, 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 money. This is a cry and plea for help for anybody to please send to invest their hard-earned money in a company that hopefully will become a decacorn in 2 days' time. I joke a little bit. The vision for Suffrago, let me set it out. Suffrago is a complicated beast, and there is nothing that has ever been created like it, and therefore it's very difficult to explain because it's kind of like social media. It does use AI, it does use data, it does use people, and it's involved in politics and collective wisdom. Like, what category is that? Which actually takes us kind of back to the beginning. What category is anybody or anything in? I think we make many a stupid category error by even looking for categories, but there we are. So Suffrago, what we have done in the UK, and we want to do it in every country, is picked up lots of public data sets, let's say crime statistics or infant mortality, whatever it would be. We've picked up these data sets, and then we've got the censuses or censi. Geoff will probably tell me, is it censi, the plural of census? I don't know. But you know, the analysis, you have most countries every 10 years. So you pick up the public data, then you pick up a census, you pick up postcodes or zip codes, and the way we've done it, we've modeled public data sets across, for us, members of parliament's areas, but it could be senators, it doesn't really matter. It's a modeling exercise. And in our modern democracies, there's a lot of publicly available data, but none of it usually is modeled along boundaries for members of parliament, which in itself is bananas. I cannot believe that's the case. When you do that, the members of parliament become CEOs of their own area because for the first time they have data dashboards to tell them how many businesses are in their area because they don't know. It's extraordinary. It's mad. It's like for me, I always look at it, well, what would I want if I was the member of parliament? I would want this, and they don't have it. So it's empowering of the members of parliament, number one. And then over time, they can see whether infant mortality goes up or down in their areas. Are more companies opened in their areas, etc., etc. They're league tabled, number one. So that's a public service, right? Who's not happy? Who's unhappy about that? Number two, it is a polling type platform. But polling, I think, is utterly broken. Do you remember the Iowa poll that said Harris was going to win by 14 points over? Oh no, she didn't. If anyone's ever seen the footage of the Indian pollsters crying live on television last time because he said Modi was going to win by landslide in India, oh no, he didn't. Most all polls are basically wrong because nobody wants to be honest to a pollster. And in the United Kingdom, a poll is usually 1,000 people modeled over 68 million. As we've experienced and examined in this podcast, which I'm really enjoying, us humans, we change our mind a lot. We don't fit into any categories particularly. And polling is based on modeling out so and so person to be representative of tens of thousands of others. How ridiculous, and it's set in the past. We believe that there should be opinion polls that are evolving, like we call it the pulse of an area, all of the time. So we can see what people are interested in all of the time. Now, our thinking is, and you correct me if I'm wrong, guys, is we think most people are not stupid enough or mad enough to join a political party. I am an outlier and I appreciate that. So if you ask a lot of people, do you like politics? Most people say, oh no, all politicians are scumbag. I don't like politics. That is the common refrain. But then if you dare to ask us a follow-up question is, do you have a opinion about Donald Trump or immigration or taxation? Everybody has an opinion. So actually 100% of people, we think, have an opinion on politics. And it's our job using our videos, hence the TikTok and Insta and YouTube, but mostly TikTok, to feed to people what they're interested in, to take the pulse of those people, using the AI essentially to find the collective wisdom of every area, and that is fed to the politician. And if the politician votes in Parliament against the collective wisdom of their area, well, the well-known journalist with their smartphone is going to say, this politician voted for X, but most of the people in the area wanted Y. Suffrago is the ultimate democracy tool. And most journalists are good with words, as you've kind of said, words, words, words. People with words, the lawyers, the people with English literature degrees and French literature degrees have all the power. It's usually, name the famous lawyer politicians: Obama, Biden, Harris, J.D. Vance, Mandela, Gandhi, Jinnah. The lawyers dominate politics because they can speak. I'm probably the outlier there for not being very good at it. But if therefore the people that like words generally don't like numbers, but all of our world is based now on numbers. Suffrago feeds those numbers into morons like me, who would be a politician type, who don't understand data. And they use journalists who are usually hopeless with data to explain data to the people. Most people don't like numbers anyway. It's making it simple. And you said something very fascinating about dumbing stuff down. Take a very complicated issue and ask AI to say, explain this to me as if I was six, which is usually the best way to, I think, use AI. Explain something simple to me in like a poem or something like that. And essentially, we're doing that, making the complicated more simple, but it's based on a source of truth. And at Suffrago, we've got a political neutrality council with 6 people on it that mark our homework, and an AI and data ethics council. If I can just wrap it on for 1 second, what irks me is how bad the internet has got. The word of the year for 2023 was "enshittification," and that's because the internet got shitter. Facebook, excuse my French, got shitter. Nobody trusts any of it. And I'm not saying my views on the Trump administration because we are politically neutral. But what was very instructive to the entire world is when all the tech giants went to the Oval Office to metaphorically bend the knee, whether you thought that was right or wrong, and they suppose they had to do that. The rest of the world took notice and realized that big tech isn't on your side. We want to be a big tech player that is on your side.
Incredible. There's something so powerful about having power directed for people, not at people, but for people. Um, and in full transparency, uh, Geoff and I made this podcast because we wanted selfishly to talk to incredible people like yourself. But we also recognize that with great power comes great responsibility. And because we have the privilege of having conversations like this, we believe very deeply that we should be giving something back to our viewers, not just the questions that we find interesting and we find fascinating, although it's really awesome to be able to talk about stuff like this, but also things that our viewers can use today. And so in that spirit, what we ask every single one of our guests, you have lived a life of building things from the very beginning, and it's an incredible one. And most of our viewers and listeners are people who are currently building. So, in your experience, in the anecdotal evidence of your life, what is one skill that has served you from maybe the beginning of your career to building Suffrago to being a lawyer, something that someone out there can start practicing today to build the life that they want, uh, even if it's not particularly yours? What's something that someone can start practicing today that served you well?
Philosophy. Studying philosophy is a massive mistake from at least the British educational system to not provide it. I think Geoff might say the French system probably does the philosophy side better. Now, I studied quite a lot of philosophy at university, and even saying that was probably put all of your listeners and viewers to sleep. Oh, philosophy. But it isn't. If you go back to the ancient Greek ways of doing things, it was a practice. It would be like lifting weights, like bending your mind, following an argument around and trying to get to essentially the truth of it. And the law firm I used to run was called Truth Legal. I'm interested in that. And I think we can get to as close to truth as possible by studying some philosophy. And AI can do that very well. Like you could ask an AI, look at this problem through an Epicurean lens, a Stoic lens, a Christian lens, whatever it would be, a Buddhist lens. Having all those different perspectives, I find absolutely brilliant because you can think round any sort of problem because essentially you've got all these tools in your toolbox to can see a problem. Now, for me, one of the Stoic things is the obstacle is the way. For me, my chronic illness, I'm thinking, oh goodness, you wouldn't choose to have it. I would love to be playing football again, and I'd love to not be working lying down most of the time. And I'd love to meet you guys in person. But that isn't going to happen. So the obstacle is the way. Lean into stuff. TikTok as well. I spent so much time on TikTok. I actually understood what it was all about, right? The obstacle is a way given to me through stoicism. But there could also be another way of looking at things. There's a story, if you ever get a chance to look at it, they call The Chinese Farmer on YouTube. You have a look. It's a Eastern philosophy of what is bad news. It's hard to work out. It's a beautiful thing by a guy called Alan Watts who found it. Anyway, that has allowed me to not be miserable when things don't work out. And when I think of Suffrago, if I may, I think we've got a quarter chance of dying within 6 months, and I think we've got a quarter chance of becoming a unicorn. And imagine it dies, knowing that if I'd done it slightly better, I genuinely think it would have become a unicorn and the whole world would have needed it. That's quite a burden to carry and financial burden to be devastated about. And I'll be soon, if it dies, I'll be begging, you might have to send money to Andrew Gray, who is now impoverished in a little place. He had to sell his house and is now living in a caravan somewhere in Yorkshire. So yeah, philosophy, go into it, watch little videos, The School of Life. Couldn't recommend that enough.
Wow, very interesting. I didn't expect that. Study philosophy. And if you find it too complex to read, you can use AI. Again, the obstacle is the way. This is something that I heard a few times the other day. Andrew, thank you so much for your passion, for your energy, for your humor, and for doing what you do for people, because the world needs more democracy, especially today when things are rough in certain places. Andrew, thanks a lot. Before we go, I would like to ask you one question that we ask all of our guests. I will give you the magic microphone. And the magic microphone is magic because it allows you to speak to everyone on the planet who's living today and also those who are not even born yet. It is your opportunity to leave a universal and timeless message. What do you want to say?
That is such a good question. What I say to my children is the answer to this question. Listen to your deepest intuitions and follow them, because you won't go wrong.
All right. One more for the scoreboard for the short and simple and powerful messages here. It's a running joke that my favorite of the answers of these are the short ones because they're so impactful. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us. This has really been an incredible conversation. Where can we find you? How can we help you? Tell us so that the world can hear.
I'm really moved by what you said. Find me on TikTok, obviously. That was a silly question, Charles. You should be ashamed of yourself. So I'm down as Suffrago CEO. So Suffrago is named after the suffragettes, i.e. to vote. So SUFFRAGO CEO. That's me. Or suffrago.org as well. And I'd love to connect with anyone on LinkedIn. And it's hard to reply to everything on TikTok. LinkedIn, I'm more likely to reply to, and my email address will be buried somewhere in there. I also have my own blog at andrew-gray.org, and I may also be on Wikipedia if you have a look.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've made it this far, please make sure to like, subscribe, send this to a friend that needs some validation over their TikTok career. Or to someone who's trying to save democracy. But either way, make sure to tune in every Wednesday for a great episode of Casually Pro, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.